Okay, so yeah, as well, welcome to another episode of Colin's. I don't know if it's Colin's podcast or is it me because I'm doing this one. Doesn't matter. Today with us we've got Ben from as many as three bands: Deux Trois, We Are Adam West, and Carvings, although not in that order. Yeah, it's really good to have you with us, mate. And just wondered if you wanted to just start off with just giving us like a little potted history of your time in music and what you've been doing currently. And not a lot is a good answer for that last one because it's what we've all been doing, I think.
Well, I started playing music in the eighth grade. Um, I started like an arts program in seventh grade. So like from seventh grade until 11th grade, almost all of my schooling was through like an arts focused lens. So like a lot of musicals, like playing in like the the brass band,
Hmm.
and then sort of like meeting some dudes from out of town and starting our first band in the eighth grade, and from there it just sort of exploded. It was just something that I realized I absolutely have to do with my life.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was like the earliest was eighth grade, and then from there like you just meet so many people like playing shows and going to shows that it just sort of spitballs from there. All of a sudden, we're playing shows like way out of town and meeting all sorts of new people. And like we were really lucky. We grew up. Um, there was this massive like high school music scene when we hit high school.
Hmm.
There was just bands all over the place, and like in the towns that we played, like we were allowed to play bars. You know, with parental permission. You'd always have to stay away from the bar itself. But then there was all these sort of like little like community halls that like you could rent out. If we didn't have a show that we could rent out for like $50 for the night, and you just pack like 30 of your sweaty friends into a tiny little hall. And yeah, it was a really interesting time to grow up in southeastern Ontario. It was music everywhere.
Hmm. That sounds amazing. So with the bars thing, did you have to do the straight edge thing with the crosses on the backs of your hands to make sure you didn't get served?
Even like before we could drink, a lot of us like really dug into that straight edge lifestyle anyway. Like,
Oh, really? Yeah, I think I
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of I flirted with it, but I never went all the way into the thing. I think I got seduced by it quite quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, the allure of that rock and roll lifestyle does eventually sort of sneak up on
Yeah.
you.
It's just so much fun. It just catches up with you, doesn't it? But, no, that's really cool. Well, and then when was it you start? Was we are Adam West? That was at school, wasn't it? That was when you were still at school.
Yeah, so that was late high school, maybe like 11th grade.
Hmm.
And that was sort of a weird genesis. We started as one band called Waking to Winter, and it was like a five-piece, and we were doing sort of like Taking Back Sunday meets the Autumn to Ashes sort of stuff,
Hmm.
like, uh, and then like me as the lead singer, one of the guitar players, and the bass player were just super bored of that kind of music. So we went off and just started doing like our own sort of what our drummer at the time used to call it like our your little punk project. Hated that we were playing music without him. Um, but yeah, so we came out of that and then went hard at it for three years or so. Did a bunch of
Hmm.
mini tours around Ontario and uh, yeah, just recorded and had as much fun as we could.
Hmm. And the recording, I think I remember you saying earlier, was just you guys in a basement, wasn't it? You just did it all through Audacity, basically.
Yeah, in our drummer's basement, and he actually like he's been running a studio here in Ontario for well basically since then, and he's just forever booked. Like he's constantly got bands in his house, uh,
Hmm.
just recording like crazy.
Hmm. No, that's cool. Well, yeah, that's a good kind of guy to have around, isn't it? Somebody who knows what they're doing to at least some degree with that sort of thing. And then so after that, carvings was there quite a bit of a break between the two, or was it pretty much as soon
Yeah,
as Adam West finished?
no, it was a pretty significant break. I think maybe 2 or 3 years.
Right.
I had gone to college for recording art,
Mm.
and then landed back in my hometown with absolutely zero idea of what I was going to do with that information that I just gained. So I was just working on my first restaurant job, and an old friend of mine who was going to university in town just sort of plopped into the restaurant one day and was like, "Hey, like we're looking for a guitar player. Do you want to come and join us?" So that was like it's almost an identical story to how I ended up joining Deux Trois as well. Like I
Mm.
landed back in Kingston after an extended period away, and then was working a job, and someone just sort of popped in and was like, "Oh, hey, I remember you. Do you want to play music?"
That's kind of amazing because, like, I mean, just by a sort of way of a contrast, whenever I've had to sort of do that sort of thing, I've always had, I don't know whether I mean, Bristol supposedly it does have a really good music scene, but I've always had to like really search like, every nook and cranny I can for someone, because like it was always a case of I could find, 10 guitarists if I spat out the window, but a drummer and a bass player, absolute rare as hen's teeth in most scenes, it seems like, anyway. But that's just, maybe I'm just incredibly unlucky.
Like, even finding people who can do that stuff is fairly easy, but people who are willing to put in the time and
Oh, that,
show up,
yeah.
next to impossible.
Yeah, I mean, it's the commitment issue, isn't it? Or I remember one guy we had turn up to practice once, and he seemed nice enough, but then all of a sudden he was just like, "Yeah, this is absolutely not the kind of music I'm looking to do. Sorry." We never saw him again. I was like, "Oh shit, that sucks." So that wasn't great. And then so that's cool. And then yeah, so it was, like you said, big gap between carvings, and then Deux Trois, the sort of the current thing is that taking up most of your musical output.
Yeah. I mean, right now, like me and Nadia, the lead singer and sort of the main songwriter, we've been trading, cell phone demos back and forth since COVID, but obviously nothing really coalesces out of that right now with the ability to.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do with that sort of thing, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, and she shortly before the lockdown, she actually moved about 2.5 hours away to Ottawa.
Hmm.
She's actually she's in college right now to be a law clerk, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
that takes up a good deal of her
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Sweet. Well, that ties in quite nicely with you mentioning earlier about the uh the musical stuff you did. I was actually going to say, so was your first instrument not guitar then?
No, the first instrument I ever played actually was the trombone.
Oh no way. That's a hell of a jump.
Yeah. It was I mean, it was a lot of fun. I was never great at it.
Hmm.
But basically, as soon as I could, I saved up my money, and then my dad went out and split a guitar with me. Um, and then from there, it was just like I never put it down. In my hand every minute that I was home.
So what sort of age were you when you first picked up guitar compared to trombone?
13 or 14, and trombone would have been around the same, maybe 12, 13 when I got into
Right.
that, 14, somewhere in there.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just as a way of contrast, I did almost the same thing. Not with trombone, but like I started on a sort of quite classical instrument. It was piano, because my mum's always like fostered that sort of side of, in me and both my brothers. Like she's always been really supportive of that. But the same thing happened. I just started realizing none of the bands I like have pianos in them, and I was just like, I'm gonna have to pick it up. So it was my older brother who had the guitar originally, and then I just started nicking his. He got annoyed, but I carried on doing it anyways because that's what younger brothers do. And then yeah, just never really stopped. But that's really cool. So what was like the first the like record or moment you realized that you had to start playing guitar? Was it that similar sort of thing of realizing all the bands you were listening to were heavily revolved around it?
For me, like and to this day, one of my biggest guitar influences is Neil Young.
Mm,
Uh,
great influence.
he, I would even put some of his sort of like mid-career, like in the '80s and the early '90s. Some of that was like pretty punk rock stuff, you know.
Mm.
Just playing out three chords.
Well, Ragged
But
Glory is
then
practically like
like
a grunge record.
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, my dad was always like growing up, he was a huge Clash fan and Chrissy Hines and Iggy Pop, stuff like that. So like I grew up with a pretty solid like rock and roll, subversive rock and roll upbringing on my dad's side.
That's awesome.
And so I think like when I finally decided like I have to play guitar, he was super supportive of it.
Mm.
Um, and like just loved it. And to this day, like he's my biggest fan. Like he's always showing up at shows and buying all the merch.
That's really awesome. That's just, yeah, it's must be so great. I mean, my brother does the same. Well, my other brother lives in London, so it's a bit difficult for him to come down. But yeah, my middle brother does the same. He always comes whenever he can, stuff like that, and tries to drag some of his architecture friends along with him, which is always appreciated. And he's usually quite quiet and respectful. He's not hollering abuse at the stage or anything like that. So got to be thankful for that. Awesome. So yeah, that's well, mentioning Neil Young, that's a really good segue into what I was going to ask you next, which is what would you say is like, so Neil Young was like the big one, but then what would you say like during your formative years? I mean, I guess that's like, mid to late teens. What was the kind of stuff you listened to that really like made you the guitar player you are today, do you reckon? Big question. I just didn't mean to say it like that, but
No, but it honestly like it's a lot of the same stuff like that we've talked about like Right to Spring was a huge one.
mm,
On some of the more sort of hardcore stuff, like I was a huge, massive fan of the first two Suicide Machines records.
mm.
Um, a lot of like Hot Water Music, Alkaline Trio. That's sort of like it's pop punk, but they sort of it's more heartfelt than it is sort of like bubblegum bouncy, you know.
Yeah, I know. I always felt with those guys that like it's just about complicated enough to sort of be interesting, but then when you try playing along to it, it doesn't like snap your fingers in half like Hendrix does or something like that. You can get into it, and you feel like you've achieved something because it's not super easy, but it's not impossible either.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I played around. Yeah, I played through Caution like daily
Mm.
for a long time, just after school. Throw
Oh
that
man,
record on and just
Caution is just every song on it is just absolutely brilliant. Did you buy the tab book for it from Sheet Happens?
sorry.
Did you get the tab book from it? They put it out on this website called Sheet Happens. They do like these absolutely awesome transcriptions of really good albums by like bands like Propaganda, Hot Water Music, Wilhelm Scream.
No, I didn't even know about that. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you got to check that out. Seriously, it's so good. I mean, I bought the one for Caution because I've been playing along to it, like you said, for years, and then I bought the tab book, and I was just like, oh my god, it makes sense now. Like it's because you can get it with this close with just your ear, but then when you see the tab book, it's just like, yeah, it's nailed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely recommend that. That's sweet. I was actually going to say with going back to like We're Adam West and stuff like that. There's a record that record you guys did that it really reminds me of. Do you know Waxwing by any chance?
I don't.
Ah, right. Well, there was this band. Their singer Rocky Bottolato now does a lot of like alt country folk kind of stuff. But his band that he was in when he was younger, their third album is called Nobody Can Take What Everybody Owns. It really reminded me quite a lot of the record you guys did with Adam West. It's like it's a really sophisticated album, even at such an early stage. It's incredible. Like I was listening to it today, just as like prep for this.
The We Are Adam. Well, thank you.
Mm. No, it's just there's so much going on in it.
Yeah, we really poured a lot of long nights, like long nights into that one, just sitting around playing those songs. And honestly, we played a lot of those songs for years, like 2 years before we even decided to record that record. We were just sort
Mm.
of bouncing around on our first EP for a really long time.
Mm. Well, it shows. I mean, that I suppose you kind of have to do that, don't you? You have to play them until you're basically sick of them before you're ready to record, because then as soon as you go into as soon as the red light's on, you lose like 70% of any ability. Or that's what I found anyway.
Yeah.
Awesome. So are you still keeping in touch with the guys from We're Adam West, or have they kind of all spread across the world now?
Yeah, on and off. I mean, I talked to Todd, the drummer, pretty frequently. Not so much our bass player, but yeah, he's around every now and again. I see him in town and tip my hat.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, moving on to carvings, like I suppose that's quite a shift with two guitar players instead of just the one in We Were Adam West. When I was listening to that today, I heard a little bit of like Wilhelm scream kind of stuff going on in it. Not obviously like totally shredding, but that kind of fighting off each other is something really cool in it.
Yeah. So me and the guitar player from Tom, the other guitar player in Carving, when we were all playing shows in high school, his band used to play with us like all the time. Like we would play shows together, like at least once a month. So Tom and I go really far, like way back, and it just felt so natural getting into a room and finally actually playing music with him as opposed to just like hanging out at shows. And yeah, at that time we were listening. I think a lot of Skewed had just released their second album, and we were just devouring those guys. And like a lot of like Every Time I Die and The Chariot, that sort of like almost metallic hardcore, but we weren't quite hardcore kids. We were more still punk kids, you know. We were definitely trying to reach and make it more complicated, but.
So it's that kind of like best approximation of the really hardcore stuff then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's something really rewarding in that, isn't it? When like you're pushing yourself, even if you don't quite make it, you still get something really worthwhile and fascinating out of it, just in the effort of trying to sort of replicate something like that.
Absolutely. And that was one of the biggest joys of my life. Is like Tom is like just an unbelievable guitar player. He's all over the map, like to play classic rock and jazz, and so getting to like bounce off of him sometimes and just trying to like meet him where he sits is a huge sort of growing experience for me, being able to play the guitar.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Rested on like the power chords and the odd little needles for a little while. So I, learning a lot of like different chord shapes was a big part of my.
Well, that's something I hear a lot in carving stuff. There's loads of really interesting, like really ear-catching chord voicings and stuff like that kind of is that's what, to my ears anyway, loads of really good post-hardcore bands do. It's like not all just straight down the line like chugging and stuff like that. There's like these really jangly sort of little twists and turns here and there that kind of just make you sit up and take notice a little bit, and I can hear that a lot in carvings.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that one, and that was another one. The These Days we recorded maybe 4 times before we got it right. We tried recording it on our own in Tom's attic, and then we tried recording it on our own in the lead singer's living room, and we just couldn't get it right. So we finally went to a local studio, and he fixed us right out.
It's amazing how much you realize goes into it once because that's so frustrating when you're trying to get it right and it's just not happening, and then as soon as someone's behind the boards, it just makes such a difference. Cool. Well, to press on to Deux Trois, I mean, it's quite a sort of change in direction from the first couple of bands. Did you find it quite easy to adjust when you were doing that?
It was honestly like incredibly nerve-wracking. When I joined Deux Trois, I went to see them at a show about a week after I joined. They had a show already booked. They'd already done a mini tour just to see them. And so when I went to see them, I just felt like my heart sink into my stomach. I was like, these songs are done. Like, what on earth could I add to these songs? Just like that isn't. It's not already there, you know. I gotta thank Nadia a lot for encouraging me through that, because I was like, I think I joined a month before we recorded that first album. And so a lot of the songs, like I was still like floating ideas, and so when we were recording it, every once in a while Nadia would just come up and like nudge me and go, no, do it like this, like doo-doo-doo-doo. And then I'd have to translate that down onto the fretboard and figure out like, oh there, okay, yeah, all right. But again, like I've known Nadia since like the 11th grade as well, so we've always had like a pretty good relationship. We used to go on walks all the time, and she would sing me these songs she wrote, but she didn't really know how to play an instrument. She just would like tap on like a picnic bench or something, and just drum along with herself while she sang. So yeah, it was that was an interesting time, and a lot of that album, the sound of Health, was mostly Nadia and a good chunk of the guy who recorded it, Matt Rogalski, the way he wanted it to sound. He had just up playing drums too. Like she was literally recording one drum at a time down in a dank little basement. And so a lot of those songs sort of came to light when Matt arranged all those single drum pieces into a piece.
Right.
It was interesting. I've never worked on a record like that before, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's funny you should mention that, because like, I think that's what they did. Even though like the guy from the Stephen Morris and Joy Division, even though he's an amazing drummer, I think that's what they did for the first Joy Division record, isn't it? They just literally cut and paste the drum sound separately.
Yeah, that was Martin Hannett, right?
Yeah, weird dude.
Yeah, he was very big into that very dry drum sound though. Like everything needs to be on its own.
Almost a bit like Steve Albini with his drum sounds, like that massive cavernous thing he's got going on. Is that sort of precursor to it? No, that's really cool. And I mean, I was going to say with Deux Trois, I think when I first listened to it, I said to you, it reminded me a little bit of The National. But now going into it further, I was actually hearing a lot of like Susie and the Banshees, that kind of thing. And I don't know whether that's just Nadia, because she's got that really like intense sort of contralto voice with her vibrato and stuff like that. It's just really kind of in a good way sends like a shiver up your spine, sort of really sort of draws you in.
Absolutely, yeah. Nadia is definitely one of the most talented people I have ever worked with, and she's like a multimedia artist as well. Like she makes her day job for the longest time was creating like commercials, internet commercials. Yeah, so she's just she's painting all the time. She's always writing on. She's got like like at her old house at least, she used to have just up on the wall. She would have paper, like big long pieces of paper hanging from the ceiling. She would just she'd get an idea and she'd go and have to scribble it on the wall so that she wouldn't forget it. Real wacky creator that way.
So one of those people that's so talented, it's almost a bit infuriating in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, good person to be in a band with. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to say with so obviously, yeah, it sounds like you guys are killing it in Deux Trois at the moment. But do you ever find yourself not to sort of like throw a spanner in the works or anything like that? But do you ever find yourself like, just when you're at home, do you generally gravitate back to playing like heavier stuff just to sort of exercise that side of your musical personality, if you like, or is it don't really miss it as much as you might think?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I like over COVID, I brought one of my guitars home and I just sort of been sitting here like playing it unplugged. And yeah, there's definitely some like carving-esque tunes coalescing. But then there's also like sort of like weird, almost like dark folk stuff. I'm listening to a lot of what are they called? Pygmy Lush. They're two brothers from, I don't know if you know the band Page 99.
I don't, but I do now.
So they were like just an insane, like chaotic screamo band. There was like 10 members at one point. But the two brothers got together and released this project ages ago called Pygmy Lush. That their first record swings between just chaotic hardcore and then these really downtrodden, like almost Yeah, it's super weird, but they're very very interesting, and their final couple of records are just like mind blowing, like just
Hmm.
dark, dingy folk music.
Oh, that's definitely one to watch out for. I'll check them out. Are they well, I imagine they're on the relevant stuff, Spotify, you name it, whatever, Bandcamp. Cool. And that was it, what was the name? Sorry, was it Pretty Lush, you said? Or have I got that wrong? Yeah.
PYGYM.
Oh, Pygmy. Sorry, yeah. I know what you mean. Cool, sweet. Well, yeah. The next thing I was going to ask you is like, I mean, obviously you've played in quite a lot of different bands over the time over the time you've been doing it. What do you reckon was your best and worst shows you've ever played?
Ooh, I will definitely say the worst show we played. It was a Deux Trois show, and we were doing a label showcase in New York City,
Mm.
and we got pretty excited beforehand and had probably too many drinks before we got on stage.
Oh no.
So that was a waste of like a 16-hour round trip.
Oh jeez.
But it was fun. We had fun.
Hmm.
Best, I like. That's a good one. I feel like it would be a toss up between. We opened Carving, opened for Fucked Up many years ago at a comedy club that no longer exists in
Oh,
Canada.
bit of a bittersweet memory, I guess
But
now.
it was just such a wild show, and Fucked Up put on such a good show.
Well, yeah, kind of like you expect.
And then would have been Deux Trois. We played a benefit concert in Toronto, and we were playing with some like fairly well known like Ontario bands, and like we had maybe just released our first record, or were just about to,
Mm.
and we thought we got bumped because one of the bands, like this band that like I've been going to see in Kingston, every time they come to town, I go and see them. Huge fan. They're called Born Ruffians.
Mm.
And then sort of we were about to go on, and then we see Born Ruffians comes out and starts doing their set, and we're like, oh shit, we got okay, well that sucks. And then
Oh, that's terrible.
but then the promoter comes running up to us and goes, sorry guys, there was like their label was really mad that they were headlining this show, so we had to put them on early. So you guys are going to go out after them, and we felt the pressure. We felt this like immense pressure, and just like killed it, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, sometimes that really helps, doesn't it? Knowing that you've got to deliver is kind of it really sort of focuses your mind, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. We were standing backstage, just like all of us with our heads in our hands, going, "How are we going to follow those guys?" Like, oh no.
So what was so bad about the label showcase one, apart from being was it just a bit sloppy, or just don't remember much of it? Or
It was floppy, and Nadia and Ben, like they had been dating when they started the band, and then
right,
sort of broke up, or in the throes of the breakup at that time.
right.
And we played so late that by the time we got on, it was like 1 o'clock, and the place was basically empty.
That's bad. That's awful, isn't it? I always feel bad when that happens here, because like this, what happens quite a lot in Bristol is that you'll get like, well, what used to happen before the world ended was you get like these 5 bands like showcases for all the local bands and stuff like that. And then the band who was last on supposedly was like the headliner, so they had to bring the drum kit and all that kind of stuff, or at least the extras if they were going to. But it's not a headline slot, it's an insult, because you get the same length of time as everyone else and everyone's bugging off home by that point. So it's just like, what am I doing here? And that never happened to us, luckily, but I always felt awful for the bands that it happened to, because it's like you've literally had to do all this extra work for nothing and no one's watching.
No, we arranged a show with this band from Ottawa. They were doing like a farewell tour before they broke up, and they weren't very well known, but they really wanted to get like the touring out of their system. They're pretty a couple of years younger than us.
Mm.
So I thought the best way to get the crowd to stick around would be to put them right in the middle of like two well-known Kingston acts. And so we played first, and then the venue emptied while these guys went on. And I'm standing there like, no, like, oh my God.
Oh,
and then
no.
the final band comes on, and the whole venue fills up again.
Oh, Jesus, that's gotta feel just like, well, there's no other way to take it, is there, apart from personally? Jesus.
Yeah, it was so brutal. I was like, I thought I had gamed the system so perfectly. I was like, I'll sandwich them right in between two bands that everyone knows, everyone will come to see, and then everyone just like for that 45 minutes.
Just takes all their friends, buggers off while they're playing. Oh God. I mean, that's the kind of thing. If I was in that band, that's the kind of thing that maybe would just want to give up and go home. To be honest, I would just be like, screw it, not playing.
Funny though, like they were really good, like a three-piece like punk rock meets shoegaze sort of thing. So it was I fucking loved it. I bought their cake, but
well, that, I mean, I think it was well, at least, I mean, to be honest, at least you showed up and, you know, bought some of their stuff. I mean, that probably meant the world to them, because like, I think it was Nick Cave, I remember saying like something about you know, if I like someone, I'll go to their shows and buy their records. That's the greatest compliment I can pay an artist. And I think that's pretty true, isn't it? You know, if you actually buy someone's stuff and turn up for them, that's basically all they can ask. And it means so much.
Yeah. And I mean, like I played, you know, over the years, I played my fair share of shows to empty rooms. You know? It comes with the territory, you know.
Yeah, well,
band practice, all right.
well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You just treat it like a live band practice, don't you? And then just fuck around, have a bit of fun with it. Oh man, I remember when a while back now we played this place called Blue Lagoon in Bristol, which is a shit bar on a good day, but for some reason we were just like, fuck it, you know, they're putting on a show, we'll just you know, it can't hurt. We love gigging, so why not? That to date, that is the only gig where we've had literally the owner of the bar come and literally like turn the dial down on my amp because he thought we were too loud. And this is like, you know, not a big amp. It was like my little orange Terror, not the kind of thing you level buildings with. And I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Go away. Twice he does it. And it's just like,
oh no.
Just like by the end of that, it's just like, why did you hire a band if you're just going to basically tell them I'd rather just put on fucking, I don't know, Macarena or something? It's just insulting.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, just trying to shake that one off. So moving on from, well, yeah, let's move swiftly on from that. There's something much more pleasant to talk about. I was going to say to you, if there's basically, if you could have been a part of one particular band for one record they made, so like playing guitar in a particular band for a record, what band and album would you have picked?
Oh, that's a toughie. That is a toughie. Because I know it's in the hot water music ecosystem. I know it's there. And I kind of want to say In a Million Pieces by the Grass.
Great record, such a great record.
Yeah, I would say that one. I think mainly because I could play those songs. Like I played those lead parts.
Yeah.
Some of the later colored lead stuff gets like I have no idea how he's doing that. You know.
He's a bit of one of a kind, Wallard.
He really is. What a strange style. You know, and he's that sort of punk rock folk real beautifully, you know.
Well, it's interesting when you look at, like, you know, the people he posts about and stuff like that on the Ship Thieves thing about like Rocky Erickson and stuff like that. That's basically like outlaw country sort of stuff. But then when you listen to Ship Thieves and stuff like that, you can really hear it coming through more than it used to in Hot Water Music and stuff like that. He's just got this really odd way of hitting things, but it's so good, it's just so captivating to listen to.
Yeah, I love Chuck, but I think Chris is my guy, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say same thing. Yeah,
just amazing, and like knows when to rock. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest, like I'd like Chuck Reagan's solo stuff well enough, but sorry, like ever since post well, not post, they're still around, but like everything Chris has done by himself is just so much better. There's just no nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, in the mood sometimes strikes me. I'll listen to some of that solo Chuck stuff, but like I could throw on any Wallard record any day at any time.
Well, and I regularly do, so I can attest to that. That's a really good choice. I mean, in that on that same sort of thread. I mean, I think I'd be stuck because I would have said Jawbreaker, but then that would just meant I was Blake Schwarzenbach, which would just mean I just had to kick him out the band for that album. So that's not really fair. So it would either be someone like, well, Fugazi or Leatherface, I would say, because again, I can just about cover some of that, although nothing off Red Medicine, because like the tapping on that album, like Fed for the Scraping or something. It's like,
that's the one thing I absolutely love about Fugazi is how technically proficient they are at their instruments, but are just willing to sit back and rock an octave chord for 30 seconds. You know?
Well, yeah, like Blueprint, like the whole verse is basically just one octave, just whacked over and over again, and it's amazing. Yeah, they just want again. Well, did you hear the the Koriki record? That's Ian MacKaye, Joe Lally, and his wife, and MacKaye's wife, Amy Farina.
Yeah, I literally just the other day I was looking through one of those top of 2020 lists, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's out!" So I got it saved on my Spotify, just waiting for like when I'm cooking dinner or something.
I feel like I'm gonna try and put it on when I'm studying next or something, so I can just sort of just like headphones on, just shut everything else out, and just sort of really get the full impact of it. Because yeah, as soon as I heard it, because don't get me wrong, Evens are cool, but you kind of want the classic lineup to come back at some point. Because I remember, I think it was Joe Lally said in an interview once that like they need to try and top the argument one day. I'm just like, well, why haven't you done that?
Do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, put us out of our misery.
Yeah, because he like I don't know, like I know he started producing, like he started producing a lot of records, but like he hasn't put out any music like since the last Fugazi record.
Who, Joe Lally? Sorry.
Guy Picciotto.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I know he done loads of stuff like I think he does loads of blonde redheads work and stuff like that. And he helps people out with stuff, but doesn't really record himself.
Yeah. Hey.
All good.
Sorry, my cat scratching my the curtain.
I didn't know you had a cat.
I do. Bird. Her name
Great
is
name.
Bird.
I'm a big cat. I'm a huge fan personally. My brother's got two, and they've started. Well, one of them has started being a bit of a pain peeing indoors. So yeah, it's super cold and wet here. So yeah, they had to train that out of her at some point. Sweet. Cool. So what else have I got here? Oh yeah, I mean, well, fairly obvious question. Is pretty apropos. What have you how have you found lockdown in terms of creativity and songwriting and stuff like that? Has it really sort of given you a burst of it, or have you found it quite hard to sort of break up the monotony?
Yeah, I find it kind of comes in waves. You know, like there are days when I just sit with my guitar and just bang out something, anything. And there's days I just look at it and I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you right now. You know, I'm just gonna play video games or watch TV.
Yeah, I find that as well, because it does make it quite sad sometimes, because it just feels like you do it to a saturation point. It kind of drains the joy out of it a little bit, and it's just like, ugh, and sometimes it's just not sounding right, or you just think I'm playing crap today and I just can't be bothered with it, and it's really really quite annoying sometimes. But I don't know, because I feel like sorry, yeah, no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, and you sort of find yourself like just moving around the same box. You know, like you're just like, okay, oh yeah, oh I know how this progression is gonna work out. You know?
Yeah. For me, it's always C sharp power chords at A to fucking E, and then it's like, yeah, that's my three.
Yep, there it is.
Yep. Yeah, that's all I can do. No, that's fair. So what do you reckon? the first thing what's the first thing you want to do once, the vaccine's around enough and you can actually do things again? Do you reckon you're going to try and get a show booked or do some more recording or just anything really? What do you think?
I think the first thing I really want to do is go to a show. I don't want the stress of playing a show. I just want to go and a really good band. I don't care who it is, just people who know how to play their instrument. I don't care if it's a cover band. I just want to go and drink beer in a crowd while loud music pours over me.
Yeah, that sounds like an incredibly appealing prospect right now. I mean, I think the last gig I had before lockdown, looking back at it now with everything that's happened, is like horror show. But at the time, it was just incredible. It was this band from, I think they actually are from Bristol, if not somewhere close, called Imperial Leisure. This ska band. It was their last show, sadly. And they're the kind of band where you only need to hear one of their songs to know all of their songs, but that's not meant as an insult. It's actually kind of a really good thing, because I turned up literally having heard one thing and it didn't matter. I basically just got absolutely sucked into this massive like throng of just sweating, like climbing the walls level insanity. The singer like pulls the lid off the top of champagne, starts spraying people in the audience, and it was just absolutely mental.
As lame as it can be, ska is just such a great experience. Like when you go and see a ska band, especially
Yeah.
It's just like, it's kind of like nothing. There's nothing quite like it. Like, it's just pure positivity.
I don't know whether it's like the fact that there's more people on stage than your usual guitar, bass, drums lineup or something. So it feels like you've got like almost like an orchestra of people yelling at you or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Right. I actually think I'm out of questions. So, unless there's anything else you wanted to add about like when what was the name of the most recent record you guys did and stuff like that, and where people can find it? With Deux Trois, obviously.
It's called Reject by Deux Trois, and you can find it on Spotify, or I think we have a Bandcamp. It's been a while
Cool.
since I've looked at our our internet presence.
You don't do much of the socials then?
No, God no. I've actually over COVID sort of like wiped my social pretty
Right.
bare minimum.
Cool. Right. Yeah, I think we're done actually, mate. So yeah, it's been really great having you on, and I'll yeah, should do this again sometime. It was really great to talk to you.
Absolutely. It was great to finally meet you.
Yeah, you too. All right, I'm gonna hit. Sorry, mate. Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna need it. It's been kicking my ass, to be honest, but well, we'll see what happens. All right.